Hello, you lovely people. Thank you very, very much for downloading and listening to the podcast. This week's show is with Gareth Wyn Jones, a hill farmer from Wales. And I would just like to apologise as the sound quality is not as good as I would like. Unfortunately, I maybe deleted it or misplaced it, but the sound engineer has done a fantastic job of doing the best he can to get the sound quality to as good a standard as possible from the cameras alone. If you can give the podcast maybe 5-10 minutes, see whether you can listen to it throughout, as Gareth has got a fantastic story and a great message. And I will be doing a separate podcast to discuss all of my lessons learned from learning how to be a podcast host from scratch. Thank you very much for your time and all of your support. And I look very, very much forward to 2023 with all the lessons that I've learned and all the plans that I've got in store. Have a fantastic day and I hope you enjoy. Hello, so if you would like to introduce yourself to the people that don't know who you are, and where can people find you on socials first?
My name's Gareth Wyn Jones. I'm a hill farmer here in Llanfairpwllgwyngyllgogerychwyrndrobwllllantysiliogogogoch in North Wales, and you can find me on Twitter. Profile is one Gareth Wyn Jones, and the same on my Instagram and my TikTok, believe it or not. And yeah, we've got quite a big following on my business Facebook page as well. We've got nearly 100,000 people following me on that.
And I think, did you mention maybe we have another Facebook ban or another TikTok, might have been a TikTok ban, I think.
I'm constantly on a ban from one, that's why I've got a few sites. I can move around and flexible, then I can pass what I want to pass on onto some people somewhere else.
So I just said to you that this podcast wasn't part of the 5-year plan, with getting TikTok banned part of your 5-year plan.
I never even thought I'd be on TikTok to talk about a 5-year plan. It's even crazy. It's about 5 months and we're about 24,000 followers on it, and I still don't understand what I'm doing.
That's absolutely fine. And you know, I think people kind of, because from what I've seen about the fake social media, I think when someone is authentic and is, you know, because I've watched your videos where, you know, they're just short little snippet bits. You know, there was one of you at the show, the Yorkshire show, with the 2 kids and the cow, and just those little real life, unedited, unfiltered clips. I think people are really starting to appreciate that and gravitating more towards it.
Yeah.
I know the first post that I saw of you was, well, it wasn't of you, it was the biggest lump of meat I think I've ever seen, with the most amazing view, which sadly people can't see here.
Yeah.
And then that from that post I had a look onto your Twitter and then started to see that you were, well, what is it you talk about on Twitter?
Well, I'm a hill farmer. I'm a big believer in sustainability, regenerative. You know, where we're sitting now, my family's been on this farm 375 years. So we're doing something right. You know, I grow a lot of my own vegetables up here, fruit, salads. I did my own polytunnel during lockdown. And to think that I had more time on my hands was unbelievable, because I do a little bit of television work as well, and travel the country doing after dinner speaking and yeah, just spreading the word, you know, because I think it's been quite a difficult time for agriculture. The last 5 years has been hard, especially for livestock agriculture. We've been blamed for climate crisis, you know, talk about the methane, and there's been a lot of mental health issues within the industry, and I'm a believer in fighting for the cause that's right. And let me tell you, we are part of the solution, not the problem.
I was watching you did a video which I thought had a really good point about, it's not about eating meat, it's the quality of meat and where it's from and where we're getting it from.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about being locally sourced and seasonal, and while I was setting up then I just said to you that I don't even know what that means. I don't know. I was watching your videos about all your fruit and your veg, and I was thinking, I haven't got the first clue about that. Do you think there is a disconnect between people and food?
Yeah, well, we look at the UK to begin with. It's nearly 85% of the people now, the population, live in cities. Now, if you'd have gone back, you know, 50, 80 years ago, then people would be still there, but they'd have a better connection with their food, because more of it would have been seasonal, more of it would have been produced in the local area, and, you know, food miles on things are absolutely bonkers. So when you come here, you get to see what I do, you know, and we do immersive tours, and I'm proud of them because I get to educate people and, you know, children as well, just to have an understanding. Not everybody's going to be able to grow their own food, but they can have an understanding of how that food's been produced. So by looking at meat and thinking, you know, that's absolutely terrible for the environment and for the climate and for everything, and that seems to come out from mainstream media, I can tell you that's rubbish, you know, because what we're doing is producing top quality protein from grass.
Plant-based meat.
Exactly. I've been on a plant-based diet all my life. It's just that the animals have eaten the plants that then pass it on to me.
The Twitter mob don't seem to like that comment.
Well, do you know what?
You're trolling as well.
Yeah, there's a bit of trolling, there's a bit of fun, but let's be honest, everybody has the right to choose what they want to eat, and I will never, ever contradict that. But what I will fight for is when they are spreading misleading information, and it's scary, you know, it's really, really scary. I'll tell you a story from a few years ago. I was doing a piece for Country File, and the guy that came up was Tim Sheaf, who was the vegan prince at the time, a free runner, lovely young man, really, really nice, London born, you know, had no idea of food production, and I think he'd been sucked into the vegan lifestyle, and, you know, he really believed in it, which I have to respect, because that's his personal choice. So he came, shook hands on this yard, exactly where your van's parked, and I said, respect me, respect my way of life, you know, we can discuss, and, you know, we can argue, but there has to be a respect from both sides. So first thing we went to my little vegetable plot, just on the corner there, we sat there. I was planting lettuce, of course, and explaining, you know, every time we plant something in the ground and we pull it out, we have to put nutrients back in there. So if it's manure, fertiliser, artificial fertiliser, we have to keep the soil fed, same as feeds us. And then I explained every now and again, we had rabbits coming into our little vegetable plot, and he said, oh, why don't you build a better fence and do a wall? And I said, no, well, how I cope with it is I sit on top of that wall just behind you with my shotgun, and I wait for Peter Rabbit to come in, and I shoot him, and then I eat him. So there is plenty more rabbits on the farm, but every single rabbit that comes into my little veg patch, I have to take it out. Because if I don't take it out, that will be eating my food. That feeds my family. And the rabbit was feeding my family. So the day went on, fantastic, and we headed up for the top of the Carnedau. The sun was setting over Anglesey. One of the most romantic scenes you could ever have. Me and a vegan, Tim Sheaf on top of the mountains, sun setting, and Colin, the producer, said to me, have you got any more questions? Because we'd finished filming. I said, I've got one more question. And I asked Tim, if you were born my son, do you think you'd be standing there now as a vegan? And do you know what? He came to me with tears in his eyes, gave me the biggest hug ever. You know when somebody means it. And he said, no man, I don't think I would. And peace. And that was it. Off he went on his journey, and off I went. There was a lot of feedback and a kickback from the programme, I'll be honest with you. He had a lot of stick, I had a lot of stick. But I liked the lad. You know, I had no personal problems with him. And about 4 years down the line, I was walking outside my parents' house and the phone goes, and Tim, the vegan prince, I had on my phone, maybe I shouldn't have, and he goes, how are you? And started talking, and he just told me that he'd have to come off his vegan diet because he was having major health issues with it. You know, he was a very, very fit man. You know, he was a very, very high octane athlete that was doing a lot of stuff. So it's like everything else, you can't put crap fuel into a Rolls Royce or into a racing car. You have to have something that's, you know, really got something that's going to keep it going. So he decided to leave the vegan lifestyle and go back to, you know,
I think it's nearly 90% of vegans do.
Yeah, I think we've got to be careful with what we say with that one. Cause I say that every now and again, and it's like, whoa, watch out, the barrage is coming. Yeah, no, it's quite a high percentage. But look, everybody has a journey in life. You know, people turn to alcohol, people turn to cigarettes, people turn to drugs. We've all got our vices. You know, if they believe that not eating meat is what does it for them, crack on. That doesn't bother me. but don't be pushing misleading information.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing for me. So for what I did in 2020, it was that not your decision is the right decision for everyone.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think do your own research is kind of like a bit overused and it's kind of like lost its impact now. But, you know, there is a negative impact. And I think sometimes people are so focused on solving one problem. Well, I'm not killing Peter Rabbit, or I'm not eating this cow, or I'm not doing this. But then they don't necessarily see all the other problems that are then created. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know what they are. There's only bits that I've started, because this is very much like the start of me kind of like looking at all of these things now. So, but the bits that I've read, and I think very often in work as well, sometimes we can fix one problem, but then we've created 5 others. And I think sometimes people just need to like slow down and really look into what they're doing and what impact it has. Why do you think now livestock is getting blamed for the environment? Because livestock's been around for a while.
That's good thinking, that is.
But there's a huge push now. There's like,
it's absolutely bonkers, let me tell you. It is absolutely bonkers. Ruminants have been on Mother Earth since time began. Okay, so we had buffalo, bison in their thousands, millions. The amount of cattle were at their biggest in the 1970s. So blaming cattle is an easy one. So I'll sit on top of the Gareth Mountains, taking my sheep onto the heft, and I'll listen to people, environmentalists, saying how sheep-wrecked it is. And I'll be seeing the chuff. I'll see every bird of prey you can believe. And we have a mosaic of some of the rarest habitats in the world. And, you know, we've been here 375 years. And I'll take people there. You know, I'll show them the montane heath. You know, the areas of beautiful heather. This time of year, the smell up there and the heather it's just to die for. Honestly, it's heaven on earth. And I look up above me, and every 3 to 4 minutes there's an aeroplane passing me. There's a vapour trail. You know, we're talking about 40 to 60 aeroplanes flying over here. It's the main drag over into America. And then I drive, you know, to London or go on a train, and I just look at the pollution and how people are living. And it's cows' farts that are getting blamed for all this. Look, there's problems within the industry. There's no doubt in my mind, and we can better that. I think what we need to be looking at is, you know, regenerative agriculture, grass-fed. Some places we cannot be as intensive as we have been. It's getting the balance and the right tree in the right place. You know, people say to me, oh, you hate trees. I planted 40 trees this year. Every single tree was a fruit tree. And fruit trees will be feeding my grandchildren, hopefully, up here. They're the things that farmers do. We don't plan for 5 years. We plan for 50 years. And one of the things I've been taught is we're only custodians of this land. We never really own it. We have to leave it in a better state than what we're given. Okay? And that's really important to go forward. That's why I feel so strongly on social media. That's why I want to engage with people. That's why I want to educate people. I want to bring them on a journey so they understand the importance of local and seasonal and regenerative agriculture. And there's some fantastic farmers out there. Really, really good farmers. And you don't hear a lot about them. And I want to, you know, showcase them, bring them on board, introduce them to the people that are living in inner city Birmingham, Coventry, Manchester, London, Edinburgh. These people need affordable food as well. So there's a lot of pressure on farmers to be producing food that's sustainable, environmentally friendly and affordable to the masses. So it's not a one fix for everything. It's a bigger picture. And that's why we need the government involved. That's why we need a food strategy for security in this country. We only are 60% self-sufficient. So this is August. After August, we go hungry. We have nothing. Think about that.
You were saying about the food miles as well, and we were just saying about the planes. So I started using the Milkman. So I'm, you know, I wouldn't say I was a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Because I am, you know, trying to make changes.
Yeah.
So we've, you know, I talk about like I've got 5 t-shirts all the same in different colours. Like, I don't buy a lot of clothing.
Yeah, which is good.
And, you know, apart from the van, I've got a little car that you know, so looking at chemicals that I use, like in shampoos and things like that.
Good.
So
Bleaches.
there's things that I'm doing, and also like where we're buying the food from. So I was getting some from the milkman, thinking, oh, I'll do that, I'll reduce my plastic, helping like the local milkman. And then I was ordering peppers, so I would have a feta omelette with half a pepper, like for breakfast, and then it was from Holland.
Look, that's the society we're living in. It's
I was
scary.
so disappointed.
Yeah, but we've got to, if we need to change that, we need to be producing more of our own in this country. And I've got a little polytunnel there. I've got tomatoes coming out of every orifice you can't believe, honestly. My wife goes bonkers. Oh, bloody tomatoes. We've got tons of them in the freezer already. She's done pesto, she's been doing soup and things.
It's like Forrest Gump and like,
I know.
Shrimp.
Yeah,
Shrimp.
Yeah.
Curried shrimp.
Yeah. But, you know, we can do it. If government would put money in towards... We're looking at the Almeria, okay, so down in the south of Spain where they're producing all these vegetables, you know, all these salads, producing down there. Slave labour, okay, that's a massive problem there. The chemicals and the pollution down there is another massive problem. Artificial fertiliser will be thrown at that with, you know, no regard for anything, because the new restrictions down there are totally different. They're then picked, packed, and put in a lorry and driven all the way to the UK. Now, is that sustainable? You know, is that something that we want? Are tomatoes something that we should be eating in January, February and March? Are strawberries something that we should be eating? Seasonality to me is new potatoes when they're supposed to be ready. So this year I planted my new potatoes in January and my father said I'm a lunatic. It's not the first time he's called me crazy, but he said, you're mad. Why plant them? So I planted new potatoes in January and I planted them under wool, my own wool, to protect them, you know, to keep the frost away. So this year we were lifting our potatoes about a month earlier than what we were usually. So we can make our seasons longer with food because we've got the technology. But you go to a lot of shops and you'll see new potatoes from Egypt. Why are we doing it? Runner beans from Kenya, which have most probably flown in.
All these avocados.
Oh, let's not talk about the avocados.
Is it green gold, is it, with all the cartel
but it's making, you know, it's making the Mexicans hungry. The Mexicans can't afford their own avocados now.
But I think people... So from my experience, and I don't know whether you've maybe had something similar or relatable, where the people who shout the most are almost wanting to change the least or look into things the least or understand the bigger picture the least. And it's just a case of, you're wrong, you know, you've got a stupid face, I don't like what you're saying, like, shut up.
Yeah.
And I will say that I'm doing all these good things, and in my case it was that they're a caring person and that they're kind, when actually they weren't. And I think that sometimes, you know, when you've got people where they're saying, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, I did a video where so I raised £6,000 and everything went to other causes, like we didn't take a penny out of it. And one of them was I rang a food bank up and a dog shelter and I said, what do you want? How can I help you with this money? Yeah. And they told me what would be helpful to them. And then the amount of stick that I got on social media, like, I can't believe you're buying that and I can't believe you're doing this. It's like, but what are you doing to help? And so do you not want me to get toothpaste for that homeless charity because you don't use that toothpaste? Yeah. It's all very well demanding people do this, but what's the alternative?
We can make a difference, but we have to open that conversation. Let's go back to talking about the climate crisis, okay? So they had that big climate global event up in Glasgow. 275 private jets flew in there.
And this is what I mean, like, they're the ones telling you need to do this and
like
you
cows
need to
are
do
the problem.
that.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to change anything.
Sorry,
I started getting waggy fingers.
Nah, I like waggy fingers. You sounded like my wife. And I don't know if I should tell you, but I'm going to tell you. I won't give you the location. So today I was in a conversation with a farming friend of mine. He'd taken some land. The land was 22 acres. Doesn't sound like a big piece of land. but that land was full of cabbages and cauliflowers, a whole 22 acres. That is worth, I think he said it cost them £60,000 to plant it, and the production of it, without the rent. And now, the supermarket had said it wasn't fit for purpose. So tomorrow, this farmer will be going in there with a flail mower, a machine, to smash it to pieces, to smash this beautiful food into pieces, 22 acres. Now imagine, and this is all down to a supermarket, a certain supermarket, I said it wasn't fit for purpose. So this producer is like, I can't, it's a throwaway product once it comes to a certain place. And he said at that time...
And what was it, like the wrong shape or the wrong colour, or...?
Didn't really go into that detail, but it was just, maybe...
But it was edible?
It's exactly the same as what anything else would have been, top quality. Maybe it wasn't big enough, or it was too big, or it was too small, I couldn't tell you. But they stagger their growing so that, when they go into the field, they'll know this will be for this week and that, so they can supply the supermarket. These are big supermarkets. But for some reason, there was no demand, so in they go. Now, for me as a farmer, I hate that. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And they should be, getting people in there, or even going on Facebook and saying, right, boys and girls, come and pick your own. You might as well have them. Any food banks that wants them, bring a man down here. Fill your boots. Before this guy goes in there and smashes them to pieces. But they don't want that conversation. They don't want that literal problem for other people to see it. So all this sweeps under the carpet quietly. We need to address that. The waste in this country is unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's 1/3 the food that we're producing in this country is going to waste.
And is that from stores like that, or is that
everything,
from consumers?
All the way through. Yeah,
This is the total.
A lot of waste in the houses, and we know that. And for me, it's because food's been too cheap. When a supermarket puts 2 for the price of 1, do you think that's costing a supermarket? That's costing someone else. So cheap food will come at a cost to either the animal, to the farmer, to the environment, or to the whole system itself. So we have to address that. This is what I'm saying, that we're not perfect, as an industry, but we're so reliant on the big players, the big supermarkets, that can pull a plug on a company that can put them underground within one swoop. So it's scary. So they don't want to speak up about it. They don't want to say, this is what these have done to us. They would rather take that hit, get rid of it, plough it back in the day after. And I'm even going to get a little video done, okay, so I'm not allowed to show where it is or who's done it, but hopefully the farmer's going to give me a little video, because I'm in a position, a lot of people come to me, they trust me, and they know I can share a story, and hopefully without getting people into too much trouble. And sometimes I do want to say it. I really do want to say it, honestly. I have to bite my lip a lot, because these big corporations are absolutely ruthless and heartless.
Yeah, and my husband was in this, I can't remember what the supermarket was, and then he came back and he said, do you know what I realised? There's only about 4 aisles of food in the whole supermarket. Like, when you take away all of the processed stuff and all of the frozen stuff, like actual... And I was talking to, when I was doing the walk, I stayed at 2 twins. One was in the army, one was a nurse. And both of them were very keen on their diet and what they were eating, and they were very conscious. And she said, I just make sure it's real food.
That's good.
And you know what? I walked away from that, and I was like, that is so simple, and it makes so much sense, but real food. Yeah. Not out of a packet, and not going to the takeaway, and it just seems so obvious.
Yeah. Look where we are, okay? We've got a massive obesity problem in this country. We've got a growing diabetes problem. Now, believe it or not, that's all to do with everything that we're putting into our mouths. Nothing else. Our food is over-processed. I hate to see what goes into these sugar puffs and these things. And then we see corn, we see some of this Beyond Meat, see lab-grown meat, and I'm thinking, I bought 2 packets. Okay, this is crazy. This is one of the things I do. So I bought 2 packets, 1 Quon and one of the cheapest hams they had in the cooperative down here. And 7 pups in that little shed there. Bought them both out, and they had oatmeal, oat milk and real milk. And I put them in 4 bowls and let the dogs out. They didn't touch the Quon. They ate the ham and they drank the milk, proper milk, and they wouldn't touch the other thing. Now, everybody will think, oh, it's a dog. But that dog...
I've seen what my dog eats.
Yes, that's what I was going to say to you. Yeah, I've seen what my dog eats.
When we go on walks, yeah. I've seen what my dog
said
eats.
That. Yeah, but does that tell you something?
Yeah.
There's something in there that isn't right. And I think, you know, you hit it on the nail on the head, real food. And for me, you know, on a Sunday, I can go for weeks without, we don't have to buy much, especially this time of year. You know, we had sweet corn tonight from my field. They were absolutely to die for.
I see your pictures of your food. And do you know what? I think yours is one of the only pictures of when people do say, oh, this is my tea.
Yeah.
Like, I can appreciate your pictures. It's not like you've gone to a restaurant and you're taking pictures of everything.
Yeah,
so I'm like, oh, he's done it. Yeah.
And I cook it myself. You know, I love cooking. I really do. And then we had new potatoes. Well, they're not that new now, but they're still quite new for me. And sliced, boiled first, sliced, fried in lovely butter. And then we had purple sprouting broccoli from the field. And a homemade beef burger from our own grass-fed beef. And our onions cut into that. Oh my God, my wife said she'd been on the phone on the computer. She does my PA stuff. So she was so glad that I'd cooked tea tonight. But you know, I'd just been to the field, picking all these things straight into, and that's what real food is. There's so many great greengrocers about. You know, there's some fantastic butchers. If we use our own sense, you know, common sense, and shop locally, supporting that local economy, every time we spend a pound, £4 will resonate around that pound we spend in the local economy. Every time you walk into a supermarket and spend that money, that goes off into some hedge fund in Barbados, or, you know, some
private jets that went to Glasgow.
Exactly, to tell us what to eat.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, a lot of these people have got a lot of money. We're seeing Bill Gates, you know, a lot of these Beyond Meats, they've got some fantastic advertising.
The market, yeah.
You know, the advertisement campaign. What chances has a little hillbilly farmer from North Wales got going against these people with a multi-million-pound businesses? You know, we haven't. But I think where we will win in the long run is our products are sustainable, they're healthy, and when people really come to a point when they find that the health is fading, and they have to find, and I've seen it so many times with so many different people, that they have to find a way, and you've just hit the nail on the head with real food. Try it for a week.
Yeah.
Go to your greengrocers. You know, you've gone to your milkman already. Go and source some meat. And you don't have to go for expensive joints. Go for cheaper. Brisket is a fantastic piece of meat. Cook slowly. Put it in the oven first thing in the morning on really, really low. Off you go to work. You come home for supper and it's ready. You know, you're slicing that, it's falling to pieces. It's wonderful. And yeah, maybe eat less meat, but more sustainable and more meat that you know exactly where it's come from, because it might be a little bit more expensive.
We've got a great butcher's and we go and get the dogs' treats and stuff from there. And it's not just about the food as well, it's the connections that you make. It's the little conversations that you have while you're walking around and you're talking to people and they're saying, oh, have you tried this? Or this is something new, or we're just testing this. And all of those little conversations. And I think when you go to a supermarket, you know, you ask someone for help and they don't want to help you.
Well, they don't have the understanding.
You know, they just, well, not even just about the meat, just where stuff is in the aisle. Yeah. But you go to somewhere small, and because it's their business and they're at the heart of it, I guess my bias in what I want to talk about in the podcast, not necessarily this one, but overall, is connections and communication. Yeah. And I think that, you know, those little connections, through those conversations, have a huge impact on people's mental health. I guess while you've been talking, I've wanted to ask you as well about lifestyle, almost that people are so busy doing all these things that they don't have time. They're looking at that heavily marketed product and they're just picking it up because in their ear somewhere, you know, they get told that it was healthy. And I think that, is it Beyond Meat, it's good for you, good for the environment.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to look into that claim about where that comes from.
It's been debunked already.
Oh, that'll save me. I'll read that later. And I think that, you know, with the marketing, I'm very aware of how easily influenced we are. There was a bus stop sign for a butternut squash.
Yeah.
Me and Rob had butternut squash for about a month. And I knew it came from that bus stop sign.
It's nice that though, isn't it?
Because it was just in my head.
Yeah.
So if you have constantly got this bombardment of, you know, eat this, do this, this is bad, and pointing at the enemy almost, like, this is why we're stuck like this is why we've got green tax, this is why we've got higher prices. But if you come to this heavily marketed product, like, all your dreams will come true and it'll be great. So for me, it's how full people's heads are that they struggle to make a decision. And then the thought of real food, like, honestly, that was such a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And I feel like I sound really stupid, like being a nurse, you know, of average intelligence.
No. Listen, that's not being stupid. Because I think everybody's been there, because misleading advertisement is very, very easy to do. You know, Hitler said you tell a lie long enough and people believe it. So we have to make these decisions ourselves, and we have to come across people in life. And I think as the older you get, you meet people and you think, oh my God, they are so right. And sometimes you'll think, oh God, they're just bonkers, you know? And that's something that I've come across quite a lot, both sides of that coin, that you've gone to some places and think, oh, yes, that's what I should be doing, that's what I should be looking at. And as a farmer, that helps you to start to understand the whole food chain. So in 2015, I did a BBC programme called Farmer and the Food Chain. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was very interesting. So one of the challenges they gave me was to set up a pop-up shop in Bangor. So I was going to open a shop for 24 hours and source all local ingredients. It was absolutely amazing, and I enjoyed it so much because I found so many fantastic producers we had locally that I didn't know about, you know, from shellfish down on the Llŷn Peninsula. So we had a guy that was growing veg just round the corner in Llanllechid. You know, we had producers up in Sbyty Ifanc, and we had the butcher in Anglesey. We brought them all into one shop, and it was fantastic. And people still come up to me now, 6-7 years on, you know, asking me, when are you going to do that pop-up shop again? And these were the kind of things that it just made me more passionate about what I believe. Another thing I did for
and there's those connections as well, bringing all those people together.
And that built their businesses. They made a lot of new connections from that. And then another challenge, they sent me down to Ely to feed a school in inner city Ely. And they sent me down in January, hardest month to go digging for food. What a challenge for a farmer. Honestly, I scratched my head. I nearly had a nervous breakdown running around Cardiff looking for stuff. But we did it. And we took these kids to a farm, and it was an amazing experience. A whole busload of kids with me walking around the farm. And then we took all the food that we'd got from different farms, and we produced a lovely roast beef dinner for these children. They were just blown away, you know. And they're now growing vegetables in that school, and they've changed. So you do have an effect. So them children had never seen a farm. They've gone home and thought, you know, this is what we want. So giving them an educated choice is really, really important. And one more I've got to tell you about that programme, because this is the best one. So I wanted to follow lamb, being from production, you know, from birth to death and through some, but that was a bit too gory for the BBC. So we followed the potato. You're laughing, yeah. Yeah. I wasn't laughing when they told me I was following a potato. But this is the honest truth about it. So we went down to South Wales, went to a farm and watched the potatoes being picked. They went then into this processing plant where they were washed and polished, believe it or not. Massive, you know, sheds with all these robotic arms packing these bags into these big crates. It was then put on a lorry, went over 100 miles over into England to Avonsmouth, to this massive big warehouse, the biggest warehouse I have ever seen in my life. They had 3 sheds as big as my big shed, as freezers, without the rest of them. So followed the potatoes through the same process there, and then they were loaded back onto a lorry, which was really, really interesting. Then we followed that lorry back over into Wales, another 100 and odd miles, and then potatoes then landed in the supermarket, which were 3 miles from where the farm was.
Gosh.
That's the food chain we live in, believe it or not.
And there's me moaning about Holland.
Exactly.
So even when, I'd never considered that. So even when they say like British grown and, you know, actually what's that journey been for that
That's why I'm
potato?
saying go to that greengrocer. Ask that greengrocer. We've got a guy down the road here, Tatus Trading. He delivers to us. It's really like a click and collect farmer style. So, you know, we're not growing everything all the year round, so when we want stuff, we ask Tats, and he delivers the stuff, and you know exactly where everything comes from. And you know, when he's had a good order of something, he says, "Hey, I'll throw you a few of them in," you know. And you're like, "Ooh, yeah, thanks, mate." And he's opened a shop in Llandudno now, and he's doing absolutely brilliant, because during the pandemic, he was delivering to people. He was helping people who were stuck, who couldn't get out there. He did a brilliant job, same as our local butcher down here. And old people, we had a couple up the road here that were shielding, you know. She had cancer and they were really worried about everything. The milkman was fantastic, the postman was fantastic, and the butcher. Everybody watched after them, you know. And that's what you've got in a community.
Yeah.
And people are there, but we have to remember them when the pandemic is gone. Not go back to our own click and collect in Tesco's or Asda or however you do it. Yeah, look, if you have to go and do some shopping there, it's not, you know, the end of the world. But if you can shop as much as you can locally, within greengrocers, butchers, fishmongers, whatever they are, support them where you can, because they can make a difference.
And I think it is that streamlining. I mean, that's what we're doing now with our lifestyle. It's kind of like streamlining everything down. And, you know, you don't have to have all these different meals all the time. It's thinking, well, I'm buying this bit of meat. What can I do with that? And what can I freeze? And how does that fit in with there? And you know what? Some people might think it's a little bit boring, like, you know, having a weekly meal plan or something. But again, what I was saying about people's lifestyle and everything that's going on in their head, I almost think people have got too much choice. They're too busy. You know, look at Netflix. People just scroll and scroll and scroll.
Yeah.
You go and buy bread or water from a shop, and there's so much choice. And I just think there's just almost too much choice that people then don't know what to do with all this information, and they're just completely overloaded. And again, what you were describing then with the milkman and the butcher and the postman, like, it's all connections, it's all community. Like,
it's people, isn't it?
Yeah.
People working together. That's all it is. It's very simple. That's what our communities were like 50 years ago. I think we have to look back to go forward. Look at how them communities were supporting each other. We've lost a lot of that.
I went to a care conference and in Birmingham, and there was a big push for like AI, and there was all these robots, you know, and it's all very well, and people were like looking at them and it's a novelty and things, and there was this so one was a little robot that would walk around and talk to the old people, but the other one it wasn't CCTV, I can't remember how he described it now, but it was a camera which would be placed in someone's room. So if they went to get out of bed, the nurse would then be alerted. But then what happens is they don't employ the number of nurses that they should, because now they've got this camera. So then that human connection's gone.
So that person might not see anybody for 12 hours. They might as well be in jail.
Yeah. So, like, you know, the people that were shielding, they've now got these people coming and saying hello. These, you know, these nice interactions, the food on the doorstep or whatever it was. And it makes such a big difference. And I think that there's a sculpture, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's 2 people. It's like a wire. And they've got the backs to each other. And then inside the sculpture is like a light, and it's 2 children trying to put their hands up to each other.
Yeah.
So the adults are like back to back, not talking.
Yeah.
But the inner child is saying like,
yeah, I'm going to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you were
Life's too
saying,
short.
like the first story you were saying about, the vegan prince and yourself, like you can still talk and be friends.
We've got more in common. Of course we have. And we have to remember we're social creatures. We've adapted on this earth socially by working together. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have these conversations, we'll disagree and we have to have arguments, but we have to have an open conversation and we have to look and listen to other people's opinions. And that's really important.
Listening,
yeah.
Yeah, is it two ears, one mouth, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we should listen more. One of the other questions that I wanted to ask you was about the government 100k helping farmers retire early, because I saw 2 articles when I was looking at that. One was saying, it was a fact checker, and it was saying, there's all these conspiracy theories who were saying that there'll be food crisis if they pay off all these farmers. And then there was a BBC article that was saying because farmers were getting older and there was no one to replace them, that would have a negative impact. So to me, that's like, you fact checked it, but I don't think that's accurate, because if you're having an article to say, the average age of farmers is increasing, there's no one to replace them, and that's going to have an impact on the food chain, but paying for early retirement somehow isn't going to have a negative impact. Like, I don't know, these fact checkers, like, I don't know what their qualifications are or who they're paid by.
It's a very complicated thing again. Look, the average age of farmers, I think, is about 67. That's not good. That's not good. We need young people. We need young blood. We need new people in the industry always. It's always changing. It's always adapting. No doubt in my mind. But an incentive like 100,000 for somebody to retire, what a ludicrous, crazy idea, in my opinion. If they were going to do something, look, let's put 100,000 towards a scheme where we can bring a young farmer in to work with the old farmer. Let's get a scheme working where we can have farm business tenancies, where we can bring people into partnerships, where they can build their partnerships over maybe 10, 12 years, whatever it is. So that young farmer can come in then, not just as a farm worker, but he can come in then to help the older farmer, and as he gets more confidence, he builds more of a backbone in the business and has more of a share in it. I've seen it in New Zealand. It's working in this country, where people buying cows, buying land, renting land. However we do it, we have to have that young blood in the industry. Another big problem is greenwashing. I don't know if you understand what that is, but it's happening in Wales. There's been a few farms recently that have been bought up. So we'll have big multinational companies buying farms and planting trees because they're offsetting their carbon.
Okay.
So, I'm moving my problem. I can still do my dirty work over here, but I'm clean here now because I've bought this land and I'm growing trees on it. So again, that will take good land out of farming production. I was down in South Wales, Pembroke, a couple of weeks ago with a friend. Massive big estate has been bought there. That's going to be planted. Grade 1, arable land, some of the best land in the country. It's all going to go under trees. Now, I love trees. Look, you've seen where we live. Trees everywhere.
Oh yeah, the roads are quite narrow.
Yeah.
Like they were
very green.
Yeah.
But I'm not against trees. What I'm trying to put over to people, the right tree in the right place. Hedges and edges. Let's not lose that top quality land that can produce food to feed us. Because once you lose that, it then will be moved into processing, into factories, more processed, more illness, more mental illness. Good food will give you a good, happy lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle.
It seems quite disingenuous as well so I'm going to do all this with the carbon footprint, and still, I'm not religious, but it's almost like confessions. So I'm still going to, what's the word? Not do sins. I'm still going to sin.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to confess. And that's
and pay for them confessions with what I've put over there.
Yeah, and that's almost like, so I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do all this stuff that I'm telling everyone else is bad for the environment, but then I'm going to plant these trees, so that's okay.
Yeah, you'd be better off cleaning up your act, wouldn't you? In my opinion.
Yeah.
Look at what you can do to clean up your act instead of moving that problem to somebody else.
People are very good telling other people what they should do.
Oh, tell me. I get it quite a lot in life, but I don't listen.
I do find that frustrating. So at the show that you went, what was kind of word on the street? What are people looking forward to in farming?
A lot of people are worried. You know, our fertiliser prices have rocketed from £240 to £1,000. Feed prices have gone from £200 to £500. Fuel and energy as well. All these things affect us. So that has to be knocked on then onto whatever we're producing. If it's cereals, if it's lamb, beef, chicken, all these things have to be passed on to the consumer and the customer. So, you know, farmers worry. Farmers worry because farmers want to feed people. They want to feed people sustainably, affordably. And, you know, for us as an industry, it's been quite good since the pandemic because people started to understand that we're important.
Yeah. Oh, you see the Dutch farmers.
Wow, they're getting absolutely hammered at the moment from the government. It's scary what's happening in Europe. We've seen what's happened in Sri Lanka. I'm going to tell you to follow a vegan for once in my life. He's absolutely brilliant. He's spreading so much right information. People don't like him. I wasn't a fan, but it's Russell Brand. And some of the podcasts and some of the chats.
I think he does jiu-jitsu. My husband talks about him a little bit, yeah.
Just have a look at some of the latest ones he's done. And it's all about the farmer. It's all about, you know, how much pressure is on the farmer and how they're trying to drive people off the land. Bill Gates is the biggest landowner now in America. Why is he buying up swathes of land? You know, is land and water the next gold and oil? And I believe it is. You know, we have to have these things. Water is one of the things we have to have, and food. We can live without energy, believe it or not. We can live without our motor cars. We can live without our holidays abroad.
It's wants and needs, isn't it? We might not want to, but like if we need to, like...
Well, we'd have to. If things became so bad, you would have to start to think then of what do I need to survive? How am I going to survive? I'm not going to say it's going to be that bad, but you know, there is countries, Sri Lanka, have you know, had an uprising because food prices has gone astronomical. India, the farmers in India a few years ago came up in an uprising because they were getting oppressed by the government. Why are they doing it? This is not just something that's happening in Europe. This is happening worldwide. So it is scary. And I'm not going into conspiracy theories. I'm just giving facts of what we're seeing. Because there's something underlying in, you know, the WEF about how we're going to be producing food in the next 10 to 15 years. There was a billionaire last week on TikTok that said there won't be any dairy products in 10 years and hardly any meat. Well, I beg to differ because I think, you know, well, you can see it now. Meat consumption is on an up, and so is milk production and milk, you know, consumption. So we have to try and make sure that we're balancing it, that we've got enough food to feed people, but it has to be sustainable as well.
Yeah, and I think food has always been weaponised in history. You know, You say that, I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, but it's there. It's happened throughout history. Like Julius Caesar, I think. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name now. He was in Rome and he like held back the Mark Antony.
Yeah,
that might be wrong. He held back the crop from Egypt.
The grains, yeah.
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 I think in Russia and Napoleon, like, was it? What did he say? The army marches on its stomach, or I've completely mashed that up, but it was something like that.
Doesn't matter.
Food is used throughout, and it's not a conspiracy theory. It's historically accurate. Where you know, people do need to be aware.
Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine has got some of the most fertile land in Europe. Ukraine produces 40% of the grain to feed. You know, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. Africa and in Europe. So again, control the food, control the people.
I saw a tweet the other day that said, Boris, and I don't know whether it's Zelensky's a billionaire, but it's Zelensky's a billionaire, can you stop taking my money off me?
They all seem to be billionaires, to be honest with you. So it's only us that are the poor.
We need to go in politics.
Yeah, oh no, that'll be the last thing I do.
I did actually say what a farmer's got to look forward to.
Well, do you know what?
What's positive in farming? Let's end on a good note.
Yeah, let's talk about positivity. Because,
so farmers, what's good in farming?
Yeah.
And where can people get started, or where can people find out about your tours and how to learn from you?
Yeah, so I don't really advertise my immersive tours. I don't need to because, a lot of them come through social media. We work with about 6 different companies, and they book the things and then they come with us. We've done 76 tours this summer. Well, we will have by the end of the summer.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and they are tours from 4 people up to 28. So it's fantastic that we've been able to diversify into something to, add value to what we've got.
And what you're so passionate about as well.
Exactly.
Using all those skills to help others.
Yeah, and another positive one. Last year, I was invited to go to Gwynllan, Conwy, which is a vineyard just down the road in Conwy. This is a great little story. And off we went, because I do a little bit of, after dinner talking, and I do some work for the CLA and some other people. So they asked me to present this lovely vineyard with the Best Food and Drink Award for Wales. Off we went. There was AMs, their assembly members and MPs, and a load of the lovely people there. And after we had a couple of wines, and Colin took us round for a tour, and then he started to talk about some of the the problems he had, because he's got a 3-acre little vineyard in Mochtra, beautiful little place. He started to talk about the weeding he had to do, and cutting around the vines, and all this work. So I said, well, look, last 6 years I've been using wool on my vegetable plot. It's brilliant. Keeps the weed down, keeps the insulation in the ground when it's freezing, and it keeps the moisture as well, and slugs and snails don't like to travel in it. He says, that's a great idea. I said, I'll deliver you 2 bags. So next day off I went, put 2 big bags, so about 120 fleeces off went to him, and they were worth about 16 pence per fleece then, and he gave me a box of his lovely wine, 6 bottles, which must have been worth about £200. So that was the best bargain I've ever had in my life. But there's more to it, and 12 months down the line, he gave us a ring. So me and the wife went over, and we had a lovely meal. They were cooking a meal, and he'd won a silver award for his Chardonnay and a silver award for something else. So he'd won 3 awards for this little vineyard in the middle of Conwy, going against the best vineyards in the country, and he'd had a silver. So then he said, how and why? And this is what's really, really interesting. Me, the clever farmer, hadn't even thought of this. So he sends his grapes away. So he'll take a bunch of grapes off each line of vine, and he sends them away because he needs the analysis to see how much the sugar content in. So I think what he said was the bigger the sugar content, the better the wine, and the more potent. And what he found out was the grapes that were on top of the wool were a lot more sweet. There was a lot more sugar
You're giving
content.
trade secrets of them.
Well, there's more to it. Don't
Okay.
worry. There's going to be more to it. You've got to.
I'm sure we should mute this bit out.
Yeah, well, hey. Look, I'm always the businessman. I'm always one step ahead. Don't forget that. This is a few months ago now. So he explained that all this was fantastic for his wine production. And I was like, yeah, that's brilliant. And then he said, why do you think that is? And I thought, I don't know. So if you go on holiday, snow, it reflects. So the reflection off the wool onto the grape itself had, ripened them sooner and made them more. And what I noticed as well, the leaves where the vines had their wool on were a lot bigger than the ones right next door. Exactly the same vines, exactly the same conditions, except for the wool. So the leaves are a lot bigger. So Colin sent soil away to be analysed, and he's found out that there's a lot more nutrients in the soil where the wool's. So it's not only just keeping the moisture in, making the sugar content, frost away. It's giving them all these things, but it's feeding the soil as well. So how clever that is.
Yeah.
We can say that he is the first vineyard in the world to put wool around his vines. And I was the one that told him to do it. Look, you are talking now to the next No, I'm not going to say billionaire, no, because I don't want to be. But
in your private jet.
Yeah, I'll be flying over to test the wine out in California.
Your transit,
yeah, you're polluting the earth. But can you see how we can use the materials we've got on our doorstep to add value to what we've got?
I do think we overcomplicate things sometimes.
I think we do. So we don't need plastics. We don't need, we can just adapt the things that we've got already, upcycle them, just be clever about it. But them little stories, them positives. And for me, I'm feeling a lot more positive because I'm feeling more love from the consumer, from the people on the street. I can feel that on social media. Of course, you'll get negativity from a small minority. That'll always be there. But you're looking now and people are asking where their food's coming from. People want to understand. People want to help the climate crisis. And I think that's good. That is the conversation that needs to happen. And like I said earlier, we're part of the solution, not the problem. What we need in this country is a farming food revolution. And building a better Britain on our bellies is the way forward.
Yeah. So watch this space then. We're going to see that on your socials.
Yeah, my hashtag is living the dream.
Yeah. Your t-shirt, I've just noticed that. What does that say?
It's a Welsh, it's a farmer. I can't really say it, but it's in Welsh it's like a farmer that swears a lot. Okay. I don't want to swear on your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I know you're super busy. And then we'll put all your social links and things like that where people can get in touch. Any questions that you think I should have asked that I didn't? Anything you'd like to say before we finish?
No, do you know what? To think this is your third podcast, you nailed it. You're really doing good. You're happy, you're bubbly, you're lovely. You will do really well. No, you keep up the good work. And sometimes you need to step out of that comfort zone and ask them questions. Well done for you. And what you're doing is superb.
Thank you very much. But none of you saw me setting up and how I needed Gareth to help me move everything around. And
them big farmer hands came in handy. You got the job then.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, hello.
I was just about to say that! Hey, lovely people!